Hey there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and this is part 2 of my Praxis Teaching Reading K-12 5206. And in this video, I'm going to go through the constructed response portion and show you some tips and tricks to tackle that. Let's get started. All right, so this is part 2. In part 1, I went through the selected response. So if you haven't seen part 1, make sure you go back and have a look at that. I go through multiple choice questions and selected response questions that have to do with each content category on the exam. Now, part 2 is going to be the constructed response. If you are taking the Praxis 5206, you are required to write constructed responses, and that's going to require you to look at a prompt and then write to that prompt. Now, a lot of people get worried about this, but if you understand the concepts in the study guide and you really think critically about these concepts, you can use them and the words, remember those good words I talk about, in your constructed response, which will help you gain points. Let's have a look at what a sample constructed response might look like. All right, so full disclosure, this particular video is going to have a lot of text on the screen because it is a writing task. So bear with me. I'll try to underline and make it a little bit easier for you to discern information based on what we're talking about. So this is a sample constructed response. You always have a scenario here. Sometimes it's, just a paragraph like this. Sometimes it'll have a data set. It just depends. And then you have the tasks, and those are typically indicated with bullets or numbers. Remember, I always say to think like a test maker and work backwards because it's important to understand the task before you go up here and read the scenario. If you start in the scenario first, you're going to read all of this and maybe look over some data depending on what the constructed response is. And then you're going to read these bullets, the task, then you're going to have to go back in and read the scenario again. So save yourself some time. Typically, when we start with the task first, we can kind of figure out what we're already going to write about, and then we can apply certain aspects of the scenario in that. So let's take a look at the tasks here, these 2 bullets. So it says, based on the information provided, identify 2 types of assessments Ms. Johnson can use to pinpoint specific needs of her students. Now, before I even look at this scenario, I know 2 types of assessments because I read the study guide, specifically the assessment section, which is very in-depth in this book. So I can choose 2 assessments right now without even having to read the scenario. And I know that I could use summative assessments, formative assessments, criterion referenced assessments, performance-based assessments. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm thinking. I'm definitely going to use formative because I know formative are very important in pinpointing specific needs. So are diagnostic exams, so are performance-based. So I'm going to keep those in mind. And then I'm going to explain, this is important, the benefits of these assessments in understanding student challenges in critical thinking, analytical writing, and synthesizing information. Now, right now, just reading that last sentence, I know I can use formative and performance-based because performance-based is going to give me a good read on these skills here. These are higher order skills and usually require us to apply our knowledge. And the only way to assess application of skills typically is through performance-based. So right away, I'm going to write down formative and performance-based. Okay, sorry about my handwriting there, but if you use your scratch paper, you don't have to make it nice and neat. You can just, write it down in an outline form. Okay, so that's going to take care of the first one. The second one is, given the assessments you have selected, propose 2 differentiation strategies Ms. Johnson can implement to enhance student learning and engagement in social studies. Okay, I need to differentiate based on the results of these assessments. Focus on strategies that cater to students struggling with critical thinking. Okay, right away, I can start thinking about critical thinking skills. What are some interventions? Well, I can use questioning techniques. I can use tiered activities. Tiered activities is like differentiation. I talk a lot about that in the study guide. I can use mini lessons, workshops. Just start thinking about that. And the synthesis of information from various sources. Okay. So now I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to write about already. Now let's read the scenario. Ms. Johnson is a 10th grade social studies teacher. Okay, that's important. With 25 students in her class, the majority of her students are performing at grade level. Okay, most of the kids are performing on level, but she has 6 students who are struggling. Okay, so we definitely need to differentiate, particularly in the areas of critical thinking and analytic writing skills, crucial for success in history and social sciences. Additionally, a few of her on-grade level students show signs of difficulty in synthesizing information from multiple sources, a key skill in social studies. Ms. Johnson utilizes a variety of texts, including primary and secondary sources. Okay, this is all just fluff, to teach students a concept. Her objective is to address the diverse needs of each student. Okay, so we've got most kids on level. We got a couple who are struggling with critical thinking and analytical writing. And then we have some of the on-level kids who are struggling with getting information from multiple sources. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot going on here. All you have to do is complete the tasks. You don't have to address every single problem in the class. Here, they're asking you to identify 2 types of assessments that you can use to identify students' skill deficits, and then 2 differentiation strategies based on that. You don't have to address every single need of every student, okay? So after reading this, I'm definitely going to stick with my formative and performance-based assessment. That's the best when it comes to writing, which it looks like we're doing writing skills here. And formative assessment will help me understand how they're doing in their critical thinking and analytical skills. And then the 2 differentiation strategies, well, I already mentioned tiered activities. And that means that we're going to learn the same information. We're going to do the same thing, except at different levels of difficulty. You can use tiered interventions for any skill deficit: phonics, phonemic awareness, phonological awareness. You're basically saying, I'm going to differentiate the process and the product of students based on their needs. That's all that is. And you'll see that in my writing in a second. And then I might use like a mini workshop or mini lessons on the side to further scaffold and target students' skills, okay? So let's have a look at what that looks like. Now notice I have 2 paragraphs here. The first one satisfies task number 1. The second one satisfies task number 2. If there were 3 tasks, I would have 3 paragraphs. Why do I do this? This makes it easy on the grader to see that you have organized your essay and they can go in and find the important parts. Now, notice they're not super long. I don't go into like an intro and a conclusion, all that. Get to the point, get in there, tell the reader what you're trying to do, and make sure you use specific examples, right? So let's have a thing at the first one. This one is, what assessments can I use? So I get right into it. Ms. Johnson can implement 2 types of assessments. Right away, I'm telling you, I'm answering your question. Formative and performance-based. Now, let's talk formative. Let's keep it organized. Formative assessments such as quizzes, short written responses, or class discussions. You could say observations. You could say looking over cooperative work products. You could say anything. Formative assessments are really anything. You could say student conferences. All of that is formative assessments. Provide ongoing insights into students' understanding of the material, their critical thinking skills, and their ability to synthesize information. Now, here I get specific. These assessments offer immediate feedback, allowing Ms. Johnson to adjust instruction to target specific areas where students struggle. That's just the definition of formative assessments. So if I wanted to get even more specific, I could say, for example, while students are discussing the text in their cooperative groups, Ms. Johnson can walk around the room and take anecdotal notes based on student responses. You could even go that more in depth. But in this case, I got specific because I talked about how it provides immediate feedback and all of that. Performance-based assessment, such as, here's my specific example, such as, for example, research projects or analytical essays require students to apply their knowledge. This shows the reader of your essay that you have the content knowledge necessary to be a reading teacher. You're using the terms performance-based assessments and analytical essays and students applying their knowledge. That tells the reader that you know that these are higher order skills. In a more complex real-world context, these assessments are particularly valuable for evaluating students' analytical writing and critical thinking skills, allowing Ms. Johnson to assess, and here we go, why are we using it? Students' application of those skills. All right, so number 1 satisfies it all. We got it. We have the 2 assessments. We say why they're important. We give specific examples. like we say, quizzes, short written responses, class discussions, analytical essays, research projects. And then we talk about how she can use that to make decisions. So number 1, we're good. Task number 2 is going to be, now what do? We're going to differentiate. We need 2 differentiation strategies. Based on the results of these assessments, Ms. Johnson can employ 2 effective differentiation strategies to support her students. First, I'm going to tell you the first one. She can use tiered assignments, which allow all students to work on the same concept, but at different levels of complexity. Here we go. Key. For example, while all students might be required to write an essay, the depth of the analysis and sources used could vary. So you might have some students working on a more complex situation and have the other ones working more on the basic research components. Accommodating different skill levels in analytical writing. Here's the second one. I tell the reader, here comes my second one. Ms. Johnson can implement small group instruction or workshops focused on specific skills. These targeted sessions could provide direct instruction and practice in critical thinking and synthesizing multiple sources, offering a more personalized support. So this covers it as well. I have the 2 things I would do, the 2 differentiation strategies I would do, and I also provide specific examples of what that might look like. And I also offer why it's important and why it's effective, which covers all my bases. So you can see it's fairly simple. Some of the language I use is a little bit more advanced. I do this for a living. So my essay's probably going to have a few more complicated words because I've studied this basically for the last 20 years. But if you're just getting started, keep it simple and go into this study guide and review this information because everything in here can be applied to your constructed response. All right, so that is one way to attack your constructed response. Now, in the study guide, I have 6 constructed response practice questions and 6 sample responses, so you can see an example of how I would have answered that question. You only have 3 constructed responses to do on the test, but there are 6 in the book, so you have plenty to practice from. Let me show you where to get the book and other resources. So all you have to do is hop over to KathleenJasper.com here, and if you go under our programs here, Praxis Teaching Reading, that'll pop up and you'll see that we have the Praxis 5205 and I have lots of videos on that. This is the brand new book here. I don't have an online course for it yet, but I plan to. So if you're watching this video in the future, then I probably already have it. Now, all of the products we sell on our website are digital. So when you buy the digital download here, you get a PDF of the book. It is exactly the same as the physical copy, but I understand some of you may want a physical copy. So all you have to do is click this Amazon button here. And when you do, it'll take you to the Amazon link. Now, this is brand new. We just published it last week, actually. So it is brand new. And you can order this on Amazon Prime and it'll be shipped to you within a couple days. So if you want a physical book, I do not recommend buying the digital and printing it. That's a waste of resources. Just buy the physical on Amazon. Now, you can also get the digital download if you decide that you want it as a PDF on your iPad or desktop, and that's sent to you immediately after purchase. So once you purchase, you'll receive an email with the digital copy, and it will be sent to the email you use to purchase. A lot of people have a different email address that they use to purchase things. So make sure you look and see which email you're using in order to purchase it. But this is where you can get that along with all of our resources. We have so many study guides, online courses. We also have free webinars here. If you click that, there's so many free webinars that are recorded and also upcoming live sessions. You can see I've got some upcoming live sessions here. So if you're interested in that, head over to the free webinars tab up here and you can get all of that. All right, so that's it for today. This was part 2 of the Praxis Teaching Reading K-12 5206. If you didn't see part 1, make sure you go back and check that out. I also have tons of videos on the reading process. Make sure you go to my library and check those out. And we have webinars and study guides for lots of different Praxis exams. If you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and leave those below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Thank you so much and have a great day.